Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be watching this right now. Welcome to Cal State Tech Connect 2020. My name is bgateb, and I'm a programmer here at Cal State San Bernardino. And today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about our experiences with our CRM implementation, namely the Campus Management Radius product, now that we've completed a full admissions and recruitment cycle. And I'm going to share some of the successes we've had and some of the lessons we learned along the way. So just a quick overview of some of the things I'll be covering. I'm going to cover our previous CRM and the way we carried out our communications, some of the challenges and goals that we had with this project, our integration with external systems, which right now at this point really is only PeopleSoft, some of the benefits that we've realized through this implementation, as well as some key metrics for measuring the success of our efforts. And then I'll tie it all together so we can look at a student example and look at their communication log and kind of see how they arrived to our university. And then I'll wrap it up with some opportunities for the future. So before I get started, just a little bit about me. Again, my name is Brian. I'm a programmer here at Cal State San Bernardino. I've been here for 12 years as staff, and up on screen are some of the things that I take care of here on our campus. So I administer and develop for our CRM systems, which prior to this was Hobson's Connect. I also offer administration support for our application system, so CSU Mentor and now Cal State Apply. I offer PeopleSoft technical and functional support for the admissions and student records modules, as well as PeopleSoft development. And in a pinch, I also provide support to our communication staff, so offering web and print design, as well as photo and video work. I was the project lead also on this Radius transition. And so we're going to take a quick look at our previous CRM and communication systems. We were previously on Hobson's Connect CRM, and so while that was a nice product that we were on for about 10 or 11 years, it was difficult to get user adoption, mostly because the interface was very sterile. So most of the time we had technical staff working in the CRM to deploy communications. The other part was because of the design of the Connect database, it's just basically a giant flat file. It was difficult to deploy application-specific or term-specific messaging. And so we really never integrated that system with PeopleSoft. And so what we used Connect for is really just to send feel-good emails. So happy birthday, happy holidays, messages like that to our prospects, as well as reminder emails, deadline reminders for transcripts, for confirmation deposits. Those sort of reminder emails are what came out of our Connect CRM previously. And so during this time, because we couldn't send application-specific emails efficiently through Connect, we used PeopleSoft CommGen to send all of our admission status-related emails. So things like our application received, our admit email, our deny email, all of that was coming out of PeopleSoft. And while CommGen is very powerful, there were some limitations with BI Publisher, particularly with regard to the styling of email templates, and also managing all the data sources and letter templates for all of our letters in PeopleSoft became really tedious for just a single person to manage. Our surveys and events were handled through different services. So SurveyMonkey, Wufoo, and Eventbrite are the services that we used for event management and event communications. And on top of all of this, other departments and offices within just our division and across campus were using different email mass marketing platforms like MailChimp and Constant Contact. So going over really quickly some of the challenges and goals we had for this project. The first one, starting from scratch, I wouldn't really call that a challenge. It was actually very welcome to just start fresh with a brand new system, a fresh install. And we really didn't bring over too much data from our previous CRM. So we really only brought over the prospects that we can identify for terms moving forward. And so out of about 900,000 prospects, we only brought over about 21,000 of those into the new system. And this really was just so we can continue to communicate with our prospects who are interested in the university. The second was the big one, and this is to reevaluate our communications and communication plans. So really kind of sit down and put something together for our communications. And so the goal really was to develop a cohesive and comprehensive communication plan with multiple touch points for the students. And the way that we did this is a small committee was formed within admissions to review and rework all of the copy for our communications. And the goal with this committee really was just to unify the look and the feel of all of our communications, not only in the aesthetic, but also the tone of the language. So we wanted all of our communications to be immediately recognizable and form a connection with the students to our campus. And to achieve this, really, we had to develop a lot of new communication plans, a lot of new individual communications, and this really was done to try and communicate with more frequency and regularity with our students. So whereas before our communications were kind of spread out and very intermittent, we wanted to create a plan where they would receive something every so often from our university. And this really was driven by the fact that the current generation of students is very engaged with social media. And so what that meant for us is that we kind of needed to meet the students where they are. And I don't mean that in the sense that we have to have a large social media presence, but really it was more about mimicking the push nature of a social media. So we wanted to curate and present information that's relevant to these students, and without them really having to go out and look for it. And at the same time, we also wanted to tailor the content and all of the language of our communications to be a little more casual and succinct. Communication management was also another very big one for us. And what that meant for us really is centralizing our prospect and applicant communication history. So as you saw in the previous slide, all the systems that we used to have, it was very difficult, if not impossible, to kind of track down communications and where they came from. So having them in a singular place helps the staff a lot in kind of seeing what the student has received and kind of what they've been told. A lot of times with our previous system, some of the staff, most of the staff actually, wouldn't have access to some of those systems, so they couldn't even go in and look at those communications. Finally, the last one would be ease of use. So as I mentioned, there was little or no staff adoption with the previous CRM, so a new interface and everything being a little more accessible and, for lack of a better word, prettier. We've gotten a lot of staff to adopt the new system and start using it in their daily work. And really, being able to see a communication history for staff is very helpful in servicing our students and providing better service for them. Additionally, automating communications freed up a lot of resources for staff. Covering integration. So right now, it's very simple at this stage. Right now, we pull information from PeopleSoft and load it into Radius on a very high level. That's pretty much all that's happening. And this is kind of what that integration looks like. So we have a custom SQR process that extracts all of the applicant data and creates files. Clio comes and grabs those files off of the PeopleSoft server, puts them on a campus-hosted Dell Boomi Atom, which handles all the ETL work, and then Radius will come and grab those files off of our campus-hosted Atom and start importing all of the applicant data. And so this entire process takes about 3 hours from start to finish, not including the time it takes the CRM to actually import the data. And that can take anywhere from a couple minutes to a couple of hours. The beauty of our SQR process is that it does create a differential file. So early on in the application period and at the very end of an application period is kind of when we see it taking the longest. But having that differential file where only new applications and applications that have changed since the last time are pulled in kind of saves us a lot of time with importing new applications. Up here, I also mentioned that it's an ongoing process, so we do have manual processes that we use to update data in our CRM, and those are basically just PS queries that are run, generate Excel files, and then those Excel files are loaded into Radius. So some of the things we use this for are going to be orientation or early start placement categories, and these are things that can be worked into the SQR process, and then campus management would just have to update the file layout on their end to start bringing in that information. Some of the benefits we've realized during this transition. So this is a big one, the agility and efficiency that the system has afforded us, especially in the current times when everyone's working remote. A lot of our forms and processes that were previously in-person or paper-only processes needed to be converted into online forms so that we can continue to service our students. And a lot of this can be done by end users. So getting getting a form created and getting that out to the public can happen very rapidly. One example of this would be our parent and family orientation that we had for this upcoming fall. And so those sessions needed to be converted into online webinars from on-campus events. And so within about a month, they had developed all of the communications, set up all of the event registration forms and event websites, as well as posting all of this information on their website. So they had about 32 sessions, both in Spanish and English, and they were able to execute all of that within about a month. Staff empowerment is also another big one. So we're offering new tools and skills to staff to make their job easier and make it easier to provide service for our students. And all of this really ties together to provide a stronger student service concept. Now that staff has access to all the communication history, they don't need to go searching in a bunch of different places or asking a bunch of different people on maybe what sort of communications the student has received, because they have all of it right there. And so this avoids a little bit of the telephone game where students shop around for answers. They can place notes into Radius and basically just have a full view of kind of what the student has received from our office or from our campus. So how do we measure success? Well, starting in beginning in January, ending in January, our campus has sent about 1.6 million campaign emails to prospective students and applicants, as well as internal and external populations like staff, faculty, parents, and community partners. So some of the metrics that we'll use to take a look and gauge the efficacy of our efforts and communications are going to be our open and click-through rates. So you'll see here with regard to our open rate, it's very good at 44%, and we're doubling the average of about 21.5%. So what this means is a little less than about half of our emails are being opened, and what that tells me is that it's signaling strong prospects for our university and supporting the relevance of the information that we're sending them. The trend continues here with click-through rates at just a little over 9.5%. For all of our communication campaigns up through January 2020. And that's nearly quadruple the industry average and over triple the average for the education sector. And so what this means to me is that we're seeing high amounts of engagement with our communications that signal even stronger prospects, and that the students really interested in kind of the information that we're presenting to them, so much so that they're really wanting to go out there and find more information. And so the way we achieve this really is through prominent calls to action. So most of our communications have, it gives them something to do. There's a large button, there's a video, there's somewhere for them to go to get more information. And so really I want to tie all of this together with an example so we can kind of see how this looks visually, both on our end as well as the students' end during a communication cycle. So our example student here is a recruit for fall 2018, and they became an applicant with us in fall 2020. The first thing you'll see here on the right is their communication log. And so this is basically a record of all of the communications that this student has received through our CRM. And so by looking through this log, we can kind of see how the student arrived at our university. And so the first thing I'm going to take a look at up here at the very top is that they were entered through an internal lead entry form. And so we set up this very simple form for our student paraprofessionals to enter lead card entry, so physical lead card entry that recruiters collect from events, from campus visits, or sometimes we do still get them through the mail. So once the contact information is entered by a student or staff, that student receives immediately a personalized email from their counselor with their contact information and a photo. So it's sort of like a virtual business card. And this gives a very personal touch with our prospects. Again, once their information is entered, in a couple days, they're flagged as a prospect, and they automatically flow through our prospect communication plan. And so they begin receiving a pre-scheduled set of emails that amounts to about one email every 2 or 3 weeks for a year from our undergrad admissions office. And these emails generally contain just information about our campus, financial aid, housing, major and college information, and all of this is customized. So, for example, with our major and college communication, if we do have the subjects that they're interested in or the majors that they're interested in, we can then find out which college that belongs to and send them information about the college and the programs that they offer. And if they don't have anything in that field, we do send them a catch-all, undeclared, or general email that invites them to explore the programs that our campus has to offer. So while they're flowing through this prospect communication plan, they also receive ad hoc emails from some of our other departments on campus, like strategic communication. So our strategic communication offices, they send video newsletters to students that highlight things about our alumni and faculty achievements, maybe some of the colleges and special programs and highlighting those, and in general, just painting our campus in a good light. So December rolls around and students missed the fall 2019 application period, but we continue to stay engaged with the student through additional communications. So we're inviting them to campus events, webinars, and really just highlighting some of the things that are great about our campus. At this point, they're still in the prospect plan. So among all of these ad hoc emails, they're still receiving prospect comp plan emails, and they'll continue to receive those emails until they either exit or they reach the end. So now October 2019 rolls around. The student was not going to miss the application period again. So now they've become an applicant for fall 2020, and they receive their application acknowledgement email, which contains their student ID, their campus email address, and instructions on activating their portal. So now that the student is a applicant, they exit the prospect communication plan, which didn't have any effect in this case, but for most students, for example, if a student had inquired to the university and immediately applied, well, maybe some of those prospect communications may not be quite as relevant, so we pull them out. So at this point, this student has exited the prospect comp plan, and if the student had applied for a previous fall, that submitted flag would kind of take them out. So now that the student's an applicant, they start receiving emails pertinent to our campus community. So they start receiving emails as if they're already part of our campus community. And so some of the tone, the design, and the language change in the emails. Once they're accepted, they start receiving emails, one, about their admission, and two, about the next steps that they have to take, as well as emails that walk them through registering for orientation confirmation emails. And once all of that is done, they start receiving more emails for on-campus events and really make them feel a part of the community. So it's also important to note that much of this happens automatically. Our prospect, applicant, and event communications are all set up and sent automatically. And this is something that can be done by most end users. So that takes a lot of development work off of the developers and allows them to focus on other tasks. One of the other challenges with this also is we're trying to automate as many emails as possible, but at the same time, we're also ratcheting up our communications schedule. So getting all of these communications sent out of Radius is a constant work in progress. So wrapping it up here with some of the opportunities for the future, the big one really is making this a campus-wide product. So right now we have about 100 users within our CRM compared to maybe 3 to 5 previously. So that's a big jump. But increasing user adoption really is one of the focuses, and getting more people using the system. Right now, really only our undergraduate, graduate, and international admissions offices are using this, but our MBA office will begin using this soon to manage all of their recruitment and marketing efforts. One of the other things we can do is the integration of more external systems and tighter integration. So what I mean by that really is looking at the process schedules and the timing of all these processes that go into our integrations and try and reduce the lead time so that our messages get delivered faster. Because with our application communications, basically what happens is when that information comes from PeopleSoft, that's what triggers the application communications to go out from within our CRM. So if we can kind of reduce the time it takes to export and load everything, we can get those communications out faster. Integrating with more external systems, we can integrate with Cal State Apply to pull in applicant information during an application period. So kind of getting all of that student ID and bio demo term application status information loaded in earlier. So that makes importing applications from PeopleSoft and all the search match and stuff happen quicker. Additionally, we can use this to communicate with students who have not yet completed their application and kind of give them that extra push. Now, this is something we can already do within Cal State Apply, but this is part of the larger picture of having all of a student's communications in a singular system. With regard to PeopleSoft integration, we can also integrate checklists so they can have more customized and specific application communications. Another thing we can do is kind of change up our communication style. So use a more storytelling narrative and create those connections and engagements with our students. And what this can do really is ensure that we retain that high level of deliverability and open and click-through rates for all of our communications. The last thing is something that we've struggled with a lot, as you can imagine, sending almost 2 million emails out of a system within a year. A lot of our emails are starting to get flagged as spam, particularly by Gmail and iCloud addresses. So that is something that we do have to take a look at. That's all I've got for you today, so thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or maybe if you're further along in the CRM implementation than we are, I would love to hear your experiences and ideas and maybe some of the things that you've done with your system. So thank you again. My name and email is below. Have a great rest of your day.